roving unit. So you were parked in the parking lot and they come to you. And that was, it's been 5 or 6 years since I been down there. Used to go diving a lot down there, so. But it's a good thing. I don't want to see quaggas in the gorge.
No, I don't think anybody does. So just to go on with that, under CRS, we have it as a conditional use permit, under commercial permitted, and then both heavy and light industrial, it's permitted as well. Just because you never know where some of those other ones might pop up and what other uses might be allowed within CRS. We wanted to make sure it was a conditional use permit there. And then we get to the setbacks chart and just a little bit of cleanup language that made it in there and skipped review with that. But under permitted encroachments, we don't need to identify primary and accessory. That just doesn't apply, especially since there's a footnote on all of them telling what are allowed permitted encroachments. And then under the high density residential, under minimum space between structures, the C footnote doesn't need to be there as they already have footnotes, and it has kind of that portion listed in front, the 5/10, to where you can actually tell it's a footnote, unlike the box to the left where you don't have any minimum setbacks because you want them to read the footnote in there. So just trying to clean things up of things that got missed maybe the last go around. And we'll get into definitions. I will say not the biggest fan of Microsoft Word when it comes to formatting. So we will go through, clarify all of the numbers are in sequential order once all of this goes through. But like I said, most of the stuff that we're addressing in definitions is just clarification, just so people know what we're talking about and sometimes putting it in a more common language that people are used to seeing.
I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but I saw in your definitions and then just right here, you've got manufactured home here, and then don't have that in definitions. We have modular.
We should have modular and manufactured.
Modular and mobile were in definitions. At least that was when I was going through it, and I caught that, and manufactured is really taken over the definition. Oh, sorry. I'm not that good a speaker anyway.
Okay. And I got that one
Did
actually.
you find it?
So on mobile home, if you actually read the definition and finish down to after, need to blow this up. My eyes are getting. So it's listed under mobile home, but after June 15th, 1976, after that date, they're considered manufactured homes. So there still are some mobile homes that are floating out there.
Right.
It just depends on the year of what.
Now, are the modulars like the stick belts put on a trailer hauled out? Are they considered manufactured?
No.
No, okay.
A modular, the difference between a manufactured home and a modular home, manufactured home is built on a chassis, transported on a chassis, and it needs to remain with it for structural purposes. A modular built within a factory, put on a chassis so that it can be moved, and then it's taken off of that and put on some sort of foundation or slab.
I thank you. That just upgrades my understanding of that depth, because I've always considered the modular manufactured with the fixed. So I've been wrong all these years.
No problem. It's been something I've gotten very well acquainted with over the last year and a half. A lot of those questions have come up, so not a problem.
Chairman, the other thing, everything that Megan said, ditto, and then modular is built to International Residential Code, IRC, which is what your home is built to. And then manufactured home is built to HUD standards, federal standards, 2 different standards. The HUD standards are little less restrict, a lot less restrictive to make them more affordable. So, okay.
Thank you. Okay, sorry to sidetrack you and
No, you're good. And I would say just to kind of go off that a little bit, I would say 90% of the people coming in to the office or inquiring over the phone are calling them mobile homes.
mhm.
Very rarely do people know the difference between a mobile home, manufactured home. I was one of those people till about a year ago when I finally was able to understand the difference in those definitions.
Well, and I live in like one of those Boise Cascades hauled in on a trailer. That's right. And I've always called that a manufactured, you know, because it's built in a factory somewhere. So,
Mhm.
so that was my understanding, but thank you for clearing that up for me.
Not a problem. That's what I'm here for. So getting back to definitions for accessory dwelling, again, just saying more commonly known as guest home. Just one of those things I've noticed a lot of people when they call in, they're like, we've tried searching, we've tried using, the find on the website to try and find some of this stuff, and they're not finding it because they don't know the planning definition of what something is called. So this is just hoping that we can help people just in another way, having some more common names out there too. Down when we get to the Cs, we actually never defined what a caretaker's quarters is. This has been something that's come into question as of recent with a few different properties. And one of those things, whether you've addressed it or not, or things like that, I think it's important for everybody to treat regulations the same, especially within the department. And I think the easiest way to do that is by leaning back on definitions on how we're defining something. So we're defining caretaker's quarters as a dwelling that is accessory to non-residential primary use of the site where needed for security or 24-hour care or supervision. CNG was something that gas that was listed in the use chart, just kind of trying to clarify that it's compressed natural gas. So no real big changes on either one of those. Okay, we get down to the I's and we're back to the inspection decontamination station. And after going back and forth with this, and actually big thanks to Cassidy, since she was researching this and trying to figure out what other jurisdictions were doing with this, how we chose to define it was a site that is used for inspection and or possible decontamination of conveyances as defined by Wyoming statutes Title 23. And watercraft, as most people call it, it's actually defined as a conveyance within the statutes so that it covers kayaks, paddle boards, any sort of watercraft that can enter the water. So something I learned with that and is a little bit confusing with there. So we did try to do a catch-all to where we're not coming in and editing these definitions every time a word changes.
No, and I think that's really good because, firewood sometimes can be something that they would need to inspect to keep from getting a pest in here. I know Arizona at one point used to have check stations at the border for plant material and things like that as well. So I think it does more than just watercraft. And so I think it's good to have that general definition in there.
That was something I definitely would have not thought about, but yeah, they had a big old laundry list of what a conveyance is as defined by the statute. Getting down to the L's, LP, of course, liquid petroleum gas. And then under mini warehousing, this has been one that for some reason, well, actually, I know not for some reason, but there's been a lot of inquiries about storage units within the county. And one thing that was never really clarified in their code, but was a practice by the department was you can have RV storage outside if you want to. It doesn't have to be enclosed. But then when you go back and looked at the definition, it specifically said storage within a site built enclosed structure. And that's something that we just wanted to make sure we actually had a definition to point back to how we were actually allowing people to use it. So we chose to add recreational vehicle storage can take place on site without being in an enclosed structure. So if 90% of this is just trying to clarify and put things into word form for everybody to review.
Megan, you were busy.
Something. And I am missing one page, so give me a second with this. 'Cause there was one more definition that got cleaned up. And it was basically what it was cleaning up was, zoning certificate versus a zoning permit. If you read the definitions, it was saying exactly the same thing. Zoning certificate is what the department in the past used to hand out. Now it's called a zoning permit. So I clarified in that language and put it under zoning permit and basically said also known as zoning, zoning, I can't remember. I'm off track now. Let me pull it up and I'll just show you. How about that? We're not going to go from my memory. But actually missed a couple pages. My apologies on that. Under T, two-family dwelling, again, calling out the common names with that of a duplex or a townhome. And then when you get to Zs, I removed the zoning certificate and basically just kind of combine that in with a zoning permit, since that's what they're clarified now, but also saying it's known as a zoning certificate. So that language still stands on how we did things in the past. Those are all the changes that have been proposed. Are there any questions on anything that's been changed or anything that you think we could add just to the short cleanup list?
No questions here. Anybody else?
No.
No, I think we're good. Then your section 23 is the last thing.
Yeah, and that one's, so section 23, it's more just on there to where we're trying to use, track changes in Microsoft Word to where when we're done, we can go, hey, let's accept everything that we do instead of going back and forth manually with the red and blue like we have in the past. So just documenting when the date that the language amendments could be accepted by the Board of County Commissioners, and then noting what resolution that would be under, is the last thing that I have in the packet.
Okay, and then I think I had one question, which I might have lost it already, so, oh, no, there it is. Now, was at the very beginning under definitions, was under your abandoned sign and that underlined, was that a removal or?
No, so that one's just a note to say, hey, when you get done with this, make sure you go through and renumber everything. The formatting in Word is
Okay.
always very, very fun to deal with. So one of those, it was on my mind. I just wanted to put a note in there saying,
So you
make
could
sure this
remember.
gets addressed, yes.
Okey-dokey.
Since it will be not actually approved or anything until July. So
Well,
a few months
okey-dokey.
between now and then, and I'm not gonna count on my memory to remember the little stuff like that, so.
Okay, and I think any more questions from you guys? I guess we should open this up for public comment. Do we have any public comment? Do we have anybody on Zoom or? Since no public comment, I guess we'll close public comment and maintain a motion to
Approved.
approve or
I'll make a motion to approve public hearing number 1, language amendment, inspection and decontamination station from land use department.
I'll second that.
can I have all those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimously passed, so. Anything else there, Megan?
That's all that I have. Just an update for next month's meeting. We will have 5 hearings again. So it'll be a little bit longer than this one, but I don't think anything too out of the ordinary with that, that has come up. Eric, do you have anything else? So we've got,
All good, so.
I just, one question on this, on the setbacks, when we first started talking about that on townhomes and that, I mean, I had heard that there was some question about it, or are we too broad on that, or is that something we need to look at again, or are we good with what we have set? What are you seeing coming forward on some questions for that? On townhomes and duplexes?
Well, don't usually dictate on what type of subdivision it is though, too.
Yeah.
You'll have some mitigating things on that.
Okay, so are we too restrictive on the setback? Is that what you're?
Yes.
We've heard some issues with one particular person that's developing, that the setback is too restrictive. It needs to be 20 feet. So we do need to meet our subdivision regulations need to come up to par, I would say. I mean, something we just went from the direction of the Planning and Zoning Commission. You know, there was no objections to no one we had workshops, we had available to the public and didn't hear anything. And so now we're hearing that. I'm not opposed to it. I do think there's concerns with parking that I would voice, but
Mhm.
if that's something we want to do, I would say that, you know, Megan's working diligently on the subdivision regulations. I'd like to see those go through first before we look at because right now we don't have a street standard that is really good for what we're looking at. So kind of did the cart before the horse, but I'm not opposed to it if that's some direction you
We've
guys want to look at.
already relaxed it some. I'm like, until we see a need for it.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah, no,
to,
I felt pretty confident, but I just had heard that there were some,
There was some concerns with the 25 foot, you know, maybe it's just as far as the layout of the duplex that needs to be 20 feet away. I don't know. It wasn't explained to me, but you know, that might be the issue. Our issue when we sat around and talked about it and was parking and the vehicles sticking out on the sidewalk and sticking out in the street. And that was the concerns as to why, you know, if you have a passenger car that's not an issue with parking in the front, but if you have a big blown truck, like a lot of us do in Wyoming.
and most do it, it's a motorhome or they have a
Yeah.
trailer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So no, I was just kind of curious about that because
Sure. yeah,
I didn't know if that was something that you were hearing a lot of or if you'd
One.
only heard the one. So
one.
perfect.
And just so you know, this individual does have a zone change next month. And so might bring that up because it is part of his development. And so those are concerns that he has. So you will probably hear that in June. For sure.
the zone change will be going or is being requested to go to an R3 zone as well.
R3.
Yes.
High density. Well, what we consider high density. Yeah,
Right.
no,
Now, right?
well,
Yeah.
compared to what we
Yeah,
It's high
yeah.
density.
Not to a city standard. We're still probably medium density.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, thank you.
Okey-dokey.
No, no problem.
Any other business? Oh, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and
So moved.
so
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned.
Oh, yeah, that was kind of interesting on that email.